All right, friends, we are so glad that you are here for this town hall. Thank you for those of you who are in person. We've got several people who are in Zoom. Thank you if you're watching us in Zoom. And we should be streaming out here in just a moment to, yep, there it is on Facebook and also on YouTube and on our website. Everywhere you can find Sycamore Creek, you can find this town hall meeting. Yeah. So as you came in the room, you should have received an agenda. If not, Shelley Mole is your person to ask. And I'm actually going to put a link to the agenda in the chat of the Zoom so that folks who are on Zoom can do that. Follow along. Give me just a moment, please. You going to sing Freebird for us, Jeremy? Jeremy's up here yelling Freebird. If you're on Zoom, can you hear me now? Let's see. They're not hearing me, I don't think. What's that? Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, you're right. We needed to. Can you hear us now? If you're on Zoom, can you hear me now? Give me a thumbs up if you can, or not. Looks like we're still muted on Zoom. Any luck there? No? Okay, here's what I'll do is I'll unmute myself up here on my computer. So can you all hear me now? Yes, I see people nodding their heads. All right. So maybe just a little sync issue between my video because you're hearing me through one and you're seeing me through another on Zoom. But I put in the chat, a couple of you just came in, a link to the agenda. Here's what we're doing. This is sort of the first time we've tried to do a hybrid town hall, Eric.
Nice. Here we go.
So pull that microphone a little closer to you so folks can hear you.
I don't think they want that.
We're gonna like we try to do on a regular basis is start with some celebrations. So we're gonna have you in small groups, and I'll break you into a couple small groups here on Zoom to talk about where have you seen us accomplishing our mission, or where have you seen God show up, or just what are you excited about around Sycamore Creek. We're gonna give you about 5 minutes to do that, and then we'll come back and share more broadly. And then we're gonna talk about Asbury UMC, which is, of course, the big news for today. And then the second big thing we're going to talk about today is COVID and some specifics of worship here at this campus and so on. And in each case, we're going to have some Q&A time for you to ask questions that you may want to know. And we'll wrap it up with looking about what's coming up on the church calendar, take some time to evaluate how this whole digital town hall went, and then we'll pray. Does that sound good, Eric?
That sounds like a plan.
Why are you up here, by the way?
I just wore a bow tie today, so I think you just forced me to come up.
Okay.
To be honest, that was like the only reason.
You're not only wearing a bow tie, looking fabulous. Eric is on our vision team, and so he's one of the leaders that helps make decisions around here or discern the direction for the church.
That too, yeah.
So
it's true.
You were voluntold that you were going to be on the stage with me. All right, well, hey, let me pray, and then we'll celebrate a little bit. God, thank you for the time to gather and reflect and discern as a church together, where you're leading us and calling us. Bless this time give us the courage and faith and trust to follow where you lead. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, so turn to somebody next to you and just for about 5 minutes or so, answer this question. Where have you seen us accomplishing our mission, or what are you excited about, or where have you seen God showing up? And I'm going to put you in breakout rooms in Zoom so you can chat a little bit with people. And here you go. All right, friends, you got about 1 minute. All right, so everybody's coming back from their breakout rooms in Zoom, and if you're on Zoom, I would love for you to chat, type in the chat what it is that you felt like where God has been up to at Sycamore Creek in accomplishing our mission. Otherwise, if you're in the room, what are some of the things that you all talked about? And if you'll speak loud, and I'm going to repeat them so everybody can hear it. Everybody's shy. Yeah, the outreach with what we're doing here and people not even getting into a church.
Yeah.
Yep. How about others? If you're on Zoom, go ahead and type your answer in the chat. What's something else that you've seen God up to here? Yeah. Yeah, so Tim is our small group leader and as far as leading the team and just the number of small groups that are in the group link. And there's a lot more cross-campus pollination across the small groups.
Cross-campus pollination, that's good.
Yeah.
I like that. It's a huge group link. It was a huge group link this time.
It was really cool. You're leading a group.
I am.
Just tell us it's just storytelling. Like, tell us your story.
Yeah, it's just called Share Your Story, and each week we have like a general theme for them, and then, later on we're going to just do personal stories.
Yeah. We have somebody asking to turn up the volume on Facebook, so just heads up that might be a little low. That reminds me, one thing I'm celebrating, Jeremy and I are co-leading a small group for dads, Intentional Fatherhood. It's about building intentional rite of passage for your kids from childhood to adulthood, especially your sons to adulthood. And we had like 15 dads, I think, at our first get-together, and nice. Half of them were not part of our church, and I think at least a handful of them don't have any church, so it was really cool. We did a hybrid one in the cafe, so we had like 6 or 7 dads on Zoom, and then the rest of them were in the room. It was really beautiful.
Oh, that is.
How about others? Where's something you've seen God work in our church? Or
well, I mentioned the Christmas Eve offering that continues to grow, and obviously God's up to something in that. And I was sharing with the group here that we know that all this is going to be dispersed or disseminated to our community, and it's nice to get to a point where the community knows that we're going to give it all away. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Internally that we're giving it away, but when the community recognizes that we're doing something like that, I mean, that offering might continue to grow.
Yeah, so Jeremy raises up the Christmas offering, which announced today is the internal. We now have to have 2 totals, like what Sycamore Creek people have given and then what people outside Sycamore Creek have given.
Right.
And we're over $35,000 with inside Sycamore Creek. And then this charity that raised money in Potterville, and they decided to close as a charity. They said, what can we do with the money that's left over in our bank account? Who will do good with it? And they gave it to our Potterville campus. That's just crazy. So there's another $5,000 that came in for that.
It just keeps growing.
Yeah. There is a lot to celebrate, a lot of ways that God is working. So thank you, God, for all of that. One of them, of course, is this. I was actually looking back in the emails. We've been having conversations with our district superintendent since last year, over a year ago, and then the big announcement. And that's what Eric is here to walk through our big announcement today.
Yeah.
You got a letter in email, and we talked a little bit about it this morning, but Eric is a member of our vision team. Tell us, Eric, what's happening with Asbury.
Yeah. So, hey, everyone. I'm Eric. Vision team member. The others, so just a brief synopsis, too, of what the vision team is. So that's myself, Pastors Tom and Mark, Kathy Doby, and Chuck Bird. So we're just kind of we try to look at 30,000 feet, just kind of where the church is going, and yeah, make sure it's lining up, I guess, with our mission and values as we go about doing ministry. And so one of those big things has been Asbury. We've been doing tons of meetings, tons of email chains, I feel like, and we've finally kind of made a decision, at least moving forward on it. Which, by the way, raise the hands. You can raise your hand online if you want to. But who has all read the email that got out on Friday? Is it a good amount? Okay, it's a good amount. That just tells me how much I need to highlight. So I have the email up here too, so I'm just going to kind of highlight it and do like a brief synopsis as we go through it there. But I'm sure we can find it for you online, or if someone wants to read it, they can have my copy with a bunch of weird notes on it.
I think it's actually in the agenda as well that got handed out.
Well then even better. All right. But yes, we are ready to move forward with making a commitment to this adoption, and we plan to hold a vote, or have a vote, in a couple Sundays, Sunday, March 13th at 1 p.m., and that's at Asbury UMC. So leading up to that, the week before, we're actually going to have another meeting, and that's on Sunday, March 6th, and that's also going to be at Asbury UMC, and that's going to be at 1 o'clock. But it's also going to, from 12:15 to 1, we're going to have food there, and it's just going to be kind of a mingling, get-to-know-you type of thing. Yeah, I see you. Yeah. So that'll be fun. It'll be fun to meet the congregation and just kind of hang out with them in a relaxed setting. But so the vote on the 13th is what's going to be called, or it's a church conference, not a charge conference, a church conference, which means that all the partners from Sycamore Creek and the members of Asbury UMC are going to vote as to whether this adoption will happen. But one of the key challenges that we've been working through and determining is who would be the pastoral leader at this new campus. And it's become clear to us as the vision team that the option that would give it the greatest chance, give the adoption the greatest chance of success, would be to have Tom, our lead pastor, assume the role of campus pastor at the Eastwood campus, at the new Eastwood campus at Asbury. And then what would happen in that regard is we would go through the appointment system, or we would hire a recruiter to bring on a new pastor that would come here to the South Lansing campus. Now, there's a bunch of different reasons, and I'll highlight some of them here as to why we thought this would be the best strategy. So the first big one is that this is kind of somewhere between an adoption and a church plant. It's not a crystal clear definition on it there. And with a church plant, what you need, or the highest chance of success, is someone that has been in the community for a while, that has all those network relationships that can really make it thrive. And we just thought that if we got someone either through the appointment system, or if we hired someone through the recruiter, that there just wouldn't be enough time to be able to onboard them and make them, or I guess allow them to have the same relationship networks as Pastor Tom and his family have with being here for 13 years. So another reason was that someone from inside Sycamore Creek obviously knows our culture, knows our systems, knows our values, and can bring that best to the new adopted campus. And so while someone else could come in and do it, what would be greatest is someone like Tom that's just been steeped in it for his whole time here. And then what that also does is it also benefits the other person, because then they can come into a system that has an awesome team that already knows the systems, that can then build that person up and train them well. The third one, Pastor Tom, he's just got a better vantage point of tapping into all the resources that Sycamore Creek has to make this adoption and the launch a success. And those resources being like the relationships with people and the systems that are just in place at Sycamore Creek. It's going to be a lot easier for us to find a pastor for South Lansing. It just kind of opens more doors as well, rather than if we were to go through the appointment system to try to find someone for Asbury. The reason being is you just have to have a specific skill set as a pastor if you were going to be into a church plant. Whereas coming in here, the candidate pool opens up a whole lot more. We will also need several young families to be a part of this launch team that when we do go to the Eastwood campus at Asbury. And so we need these young families to be able to help recruit more young families to be at the campus to make it thrive. And Pastor Tom already has those relationships in place with just a number of people at the church, and so he's going to be able to have those conversations because he's already built levels of trust to be able to, what do we call it, the big ask, right, with a definitely a K at the end of it. And last, and like definitely most important, and I'd like to highlight this as well, that obviously this isn't just solely a Pastor Tom decision, and it's not solely a vision team minus Pastor Tom decision, but it's a collaboration and really just like a coordination between the two in terms of thinking that this would be the greatest chance for success. But the last, I would say the most important one is that Pastor Tom and Sarah, and I would even say Sam and Micah, well, Pastor Tom and Sarah have the growing sense to the call of mission, but they're all putting great amount of trust to be able to go do something like this. But their heart's for the city. They plan to move into the parsonage that they have at Groesbeck, and this would put them closer to and basically right into the city of Lansing. And so I know this is, it brings up a lot of emotions probably for a lot of us. There's a lot of excitement involved. Like, it's really cool where we may potentially, if this vote goes well, like we may have another campus, Sycamore Creek Eastwood of the Asbury UMC. But you know, we have to recognize that there's also like a little bit of sadness in that as well. You know, Tom's been here for, at this campus for quite a while, and so any change like that can hurt a little bit. So we definitely recognize that. He will still be the lead pastor. He will just, the roles will change a little bit for him in terms of timing and responsibilities that he can do. And he'll just be serving a different set of, just a different campus, right? It's only 10 minutes away. Go up to Eastwood. You can say hey to him. Go get some nice Chinese food. I think they have good, you know, they have some good food up there. Yeah, exactly. But he's just moving, and he, you know, used to live near some Sycamore Creek family, and he's just going to be moving to have some new Sycamore Creek family up there in Groesbeck. And so we do have a town hall that we had back in, when was that, Tom, that we had the town hall with Asbury a couple weeks ago. Yeah, and you can watch that online if you want a little bit more info of it. And probably, like, honestly, one of the biggest questions that you might have is who's going to be the next pastor then at Sycamore Creek South Lansing. And we don't have an answer for that yet, but what we will say is that we're working through the appointment system with the bishop and the cabinet, and we've had some people that we've looked into, different things like that. And so hopefully, if everything goes right, though, we might know in as soon as a month through that. If we do need, if it doesn't work out with the appointment system, what we will do is we'll hire a recruiter, and the average time frame on that to get a candidate is 4 to 8 months, which seems like a long time, but at the same time, the actual launch of the Eastwood campus, that won't take place until October of 2023. So there's plenty of time to find the right person. We can onboard them. Pastor Tom will be able to build the launch team, and then we'll be able to launch a new campus. And other than that, we definitely ask for prayers for everyone. Like, this is a huge adventure that God's kind of calling us into. And so right now, we just really want prayers for Pastor Tom, for Sarah and the family, and prayers for all involved, and whether or not, to be honest, if you and your family might be called to the launch team for this campus. And we just, I just wanted to say at the end, like, thank you for being partners in this, for being committed to Sycamore Creek, and just being committed to the call of God. I appreciate you all.
Nice job, Eric.
Thank you.
He was a bit nervous about doing that, so.
Oh, gosh. No, geez. Tom's response to that, all he said was, he goes, yeah, I'm a little nervous too. Just wear a bow tie. It'll be fine. So I was like, okay, I guess I have to.
Hey, we're going to now just give you some time in small groups. There's a little bit more information in the handout as far as like the timeline and the draft launch plan and so on. But we're going to give you time in small groups and in breakout rooms on Zoom to what's your reaction and what questions do you have? And then we'll come back and we'll hopefully answer those questions or make up answers. That was a joke, people. All right, here we go. We're going to give you about 7 minutes. Hey, friends, about one more minute. One more minute. All right, about 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Liftoff. And here comes everybody back on Zoom. Let me get this for everybody. Wow, I hear a kid screech.
That wasn't, yeah.
All right. So there was lots of chatter in the room. Jeremy Cracky likes to know who's on Zoom, so I'm just going to tell you all. We got Aaron, John Reich, Julian Vince, Kristen, Marilyn Menino, Teresa Miller, who's also in the room, Nancy.
Double.
And then for those of you who are on Zoom, we've probably got about, 20 people or so in the room here with us today.
Yeah.
So, yeah, again, what questions? If you'll speak loud and I'll repeat the question so everybody can hear, including those who are on Zoom. Who's going to be the extrovert to break the ice? Yeah, so 3 questions in there. Staff, current staff and their roles and so on. The second was relationships and kind of how that changes, and then who's going to be the next pastor. So the answer to the current staff is they're all going to work twice as hard and get paid half as less.
Yeah, that seems pretty straightforward, yeah.
That is. Yeah, there will be some change with all of that. I think one of the things, Eric, that's kind of cool about how our systems work is it's probably not going to be like double the work because there's the systems are already in place and it's just replicating them again. So, for example, when I've talked with our treasurer, Betsy Mock, about this, I said, how many more hours do you think you're going to need to do this? And I was expecting her to tell me, like, she's going to need a whole ton. And she's like, well, I sort of feel like there's not going to be many more hours, like maybe 5 is at the most.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Now, that's, we'll see what happens when we get there. But she already has all the systems set up for paying bills. And a lot of it's electronic at this point, so there'll be like an on-ramping for somebody like Betsy. But that question, by the way, Jason runs at Asbury as well, and they have a couple of part-time staff, and they've kind of been asking me the same question, and my answer for them is I don't know. So, well, yeah. Then, yes, there will be a kind of friendship component of this, and I think back to when we adopted Potterville, and I mean, one really key piece of that is the Opperleys are not at this campus anymore, and they were a huge, both relational connection and had a big friendship network. But also the Fittons, you may remember, had just come, and they were really integrating in quite nicely, and now Kevin is a worship leader there. So there is a cost to adopting, and some of that will be those sorts of things. But as well, there still is the cross-pollination in small groups, and I mean, Mark has several South Lansing people in his small groups on a regular basis, and so on. The pastor, we're not quite sure. We are not sure at all at this point, other than to say that I've been pleasantly surprised at the quality of people that they've been suggesting to me from the cabinet that I didn't even know existed. So I wasn't super optimistic about that, and was putting more chips, so to speak, in the bucket of hiring a recruiter. And my sense is that the appointment system is going to work really well for us at this point. And that's also the faster, so we would know it. But if it doesn't, it's because we're not going to go for speed over the right person. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jeremy.
So our group had a compassionate question about the eventual, if this adoption goes through, eventually, per the emails that we got and letters, that campus would close for an amount of time. Number one, we're a little bit foggy on when and how long Potterville closed. Where did those people go? I think they were integrated in our churches for a while. But the concern we have here is if we shut down Asbury, those who want to see that transition, presumably would be absorbed here at this campus or Potterville. Well, our concern is how long is that? I mean, if we did the math, it would be something like 12 to 14 months. Mm-hmm. Is that a long time for that faith community, those people? Is that too long of time for them to be quote unquote in limbo?
Yeah.
Could you speak voice to what that process looks like?
Yep. So Jeremy was asking, their group was talking about kind of the question of compassion for whether, like the time frame of shutting down Asbury. Our plan is to shut Asbury down for a time period, and then how we'll care for the folks who are already there. Related to that, Marilyn asked how many members does Asbury currently have on Zoom. So there are about 30, maybe 40 at most active participants at Asbury right now. So from when you ask, like, what are the biggest challenges for this, from Sycamore Creek's perspective, the biggest two challenges were leadership. Mm-hmm. And the vision team coming to think of me as that option or the best option for that was not where we started. That was like in the process over the year of talking about it and reflecting on it. And then we were thinking up front, like, we're going to find somebody outside who's going to come and do this. And it just got more and more complicated thinking about that. And then the second big thing from our perspective was finances. How are we going to make this work financially? And that's happening in a couple different ways. Grants from the conference, potential grants from the district. Asbury has an endowment. We're doing really well financially. We have a new venue fund. The big question or challenge from Asbury's perspective, you've hit the nail on the head. Like, it's those 30 or 40 people and how they integrate or how we don't lose them through this process. And so I love that our church is asking that question, because the answer is we're going to need all of your help to do that. It's going to have to be very personal and very individual, and it's going to take a lot of effort on all of your parts and my part to welcome, like personally welcome week after week folks into this campus and into the life of our church. So the current plan is that in July, we are as a church, the last 2 Julys, we've gone back and forth between each campus, like hosting 1 week and then the other campus having that week off. This July, we're going to rent Woldemar Nature Center, and we're just going to do it every week at Woldemar. And so 1 week, Potterville will lead, 1 week, South Lansing, back and forth. And Asbury starts July, the merger would start on July 1st, and they would come and join us for that season at Woldemar for those 4 weeks. The 5th week of July, we will have a celebration of life of Asbury. Oh, that's like a fancy way of saying like a funeral. And we will remember. Actually, what we'll do, we're going to shut this campus down. We're all going to go to Asbury, and we're going to celebrate what God has done in and through Asbury, through the history of their church. We're going to invite all the past pastors to come. We're going to and we're going to tell the story of Asbury in the same way that you would do if somebody that you love ceased to exist. Now, there's a death that's happening here for them, and the grieving, and we have to pastorally care for them in that. And then, starting in August, they'll be invited to participate in one of our campuses. We're pondering the idea of, at least to begin with, renting buses, so that there'll be a bus at the church at Asbury, or maybe at Eastwood's parking lot. And so they could come like as a whole group to the campus, and then when they show up here, like you all put on your like 200% greeting culture that you have, and really like, and that's actually going to be in July as well at Woldemar. Let me step back just a minute, because in May we're going to start to integrate them into our group link and small group system. So there'll be they have 2 small groups that are functioning right now. One of them is a community garden that they run on the property, and then they give all that food away to local food ministries. And then the second is a crafting group, and so we will include those in the group link. You all can sign up for them. You may not be interested in crafting, but you may be called to help people participate or build relationships. You may not be interested in gardening, but you will sign up for them because you're going to go build relationships with folks at Asbury. We will also advertise all of our small groups there so that they can participate, and we're going to do a small group fair. We don't usually do small group fairs, but sometime in May, or maybe throughout the month of May, we'll have all of our small group leaders over there introducing themselves, welcoming, and so on. Let me step back a minute even from there. And assuming this vote goes positive on March 13th, we're going to create a transition and brainstorming team with me and with several people from Asbury, and maybe a couple people from here, about thinking about other creative ways to incorporate them. So then you'll see basically from October to December, they are part of our church, and there's a part of they have to learn how does Sycamore Creek does church, and it's not the same as it was as Asbury did church. In January, we're going to start building that team, and in February, we're going to have a training, bringing our coach in, and then the first service that we'll hold again is Easter. So we'll do a community Easter service there, and then from there, we'll do monthly previews. So the launch is October 1st of 2023, but there's all kinds of things that are happening, building community, one worship service a month, canvassing the neighborhood, networking, doing community events, and so on, that everybody from Asbury and whoever's on the launch team will be able to participate in. You asked how long we closed Potterville, and we didn't actually close Potterville. And the reason that we didn't close Potterville was twofold. One was that we had Mark, so you had somebody who already knew Sycamore Creek's culture, and that person could just step in and make it happen. But another reason is that was much more of an adoption. There were a lot more people at Potterville than there are at Asbury. And so you think about starting July 1st, I'm going to have 3 jobs. I'm going to be the pastor at South Lansing. I'm going to be onboarding a new pastor at South Lansing, and I'm going to be the pastor at Asbury.
We need to get you more hats,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, more hats.
Probably, yeah.
There's not enough time to do all of that well and launch in October. October is really the only time you can launch in Michigan, something new. So it just has to cycle to the next year to do that. But it is going to be, that's their primary concern and their primary fear. If you ask, like, what's the fear? That's it. So it's going to take you all helping overcome that obstacle, that fear.
But that's cool, too, that we're talking about it and they're talking about it. And it just, if it's both on our mindsets, especially with small groups and different things like that, like,
Yeah.
we will be able to do it in a much better job.
Mark, I saw your hand go up.
Eric has mentioned March 13th as the vote and an opportunity to go to that church, but I also see that March 6th is a...
Yes, March 6th is a Q&A. So that'll be a joint town hall Q&A at Asbury with the lunch from 12:15 to 1 o'clock if you'd like to come for that.
What time is their service on that Sunday if we wanted to attend the service?
Oh, that'd be wonderful. Is it? I think it's 10:30 to 11:30, because they said they
I
were
think so. It was
done
close
at
to that time
11:30.
frame. Yeah. They were going to stay, I
No,
think,
they're
because they
going
had
to
the food.
stay and work on setting up and taking care of the lunch. That we will join at 12:15 because we don't end that early. That's when the town hall is starting at 1 o'clock, and but the lunch is at 12:15 to 1 o'clock. Okay.
Thanks, Shelley. Yeah.
Kind of what, if we wanted to go on the 6th and and try to, see their culture and meet some of the people before the 13th, if that day they're going to vote, it would be, I think it would be advantageous.
I think that's awesome. I go do it. I mean, you don't have to wait even till then. You can go in the next couple of weeks anytime you want. I'll text the pastor right now and just confirm the time of the service. I love your heart for this because there's a grieving that's going to happen. There's something that's dying for many of them, and a lot of them emotionally are in that spot right now, and it's a little hard that they're trusting that something positive can come out of this. It's really fun when we have Potterville people part of this conversation, like Kathy Doby, for example, because she's on the other side of this, and she's just all enthusiasm and excitement, and that's also just Kathy. How about other questions? Feel free to type them in the chat if you're in Zoom or on Facebook, or
I think
David. Yeah, so the question here is, what is the appointment process like, and the criterion for a good fit? That's an excellent question, David. So the first piece was us writing up, like, what kind of pastor would we like? And we made an ideal pastor list, and we hoped that it wasn't too much just sounded like me on paper. Or that it didn't just say we wanted Jesus and nobody else. Like, yeah. So, Chuck has done a good job of articulating this. Chuck Bird, he said, there's got to be enough chemistry that that there's good teamwork, and there's got to be enough difference that there's kind of some extra fun in the mix, but not enough difference that it's chaos. So the number one thing that we said was teamwork. We really function as a team. If you think being a pastor is like you just get to write all your own sermons and make all your own decisions, then this is just not a good fit for you. Some other things I think that are kind of unique to Sycamore Creek is we tend to be, I would say, like theologically orthodox or historically orthodox, conservative, so to speak, and socially progressive. And that is also not a mix that always happens. Like if you don't like talking about Jesus, or if Jesus is maybe just the best ethical person, then this is probably not the best fit for you. If you're not fully arms open to people who are different than you, racially, gender, sexuality, then this is maybe not the right place for you either. So those are some. I mean, there's a whole page I could walk through, but those are kind of some of the top two. Somebody who's, again, I emphasize the teamwork, because well, David, you know, preaching, like it's a team effort. You're not doing it on your own. By the way, I see Randy, our video guy, is back in the cafe, and he's probably wondering where he's setting up, because I'm doing some videos with him, and I just want to talk to him for a second before I answer the rest of your question. Randy, I imagined us setting up in the cafe, and we'll just keep one spot, and so you pick what you think is kind of the best angle in there, and go ahead and start setting up, okay? All right. Then the next question, David, you asked was about the appointment system itself. And here's how the appointment system usually works. Here's your pastor.
Done.
Yeah.
Easy peasy.
That's a gross over-exaggeration, but the cabinet, well, first of all, like, we built a really good relationship with the bishop, which is one of the benefits of having the bishop participate in what we do on a regular basis, is he knows us, he knows me, he knows kind of the vibe of what we do. He also is, according to my current DS, the youngest and most flexible bishop that he's ever worked under or with. So Bishop Bard is a real asset to thinking differently about how we do, and you can see that in that. I've never heard of this before, but the cabinet sent us not one name, they sent us 10 names to consider, and then we became like social media stalkers. And we ruled out, I'd say 7 of them, and we were down to 3. And then it's been a bit of a conversation back and forth about, can we talk to these folks, and then who knows them well in the cabinet. And as we further talked about who we are and what we are, 2 of those people went off the list, and another person came on. So that's that. The list is at 2 right now, I would say, and we're in the process of getting to know them and meet them. And have some conversations. So if that goes positive, then we could know very soon what's happening with who's here. If after those meetings with me and with our team, we still are not easy or not at peace with that, then at that point we're probably tapping into a recruiter. But I feel pretty confident about the 2 people that are left on the list. How's that for, like, mystery? So, yeah, Jeremy.
Just a quick question. If we were to absorb Asbury and they become one of our campuses, is the building already bought? Is there a mortgage on the house, or is it's all debt-free?
Yeah, no, they don't have any debt.
So the new pastor would live at the house that you're currently at?
Maybe. That's a conversation. I've always thought ideally the pastor of this campus would live in this neighborhood. But that'd be a conversation with that pastor, and one option would be the parsonage that Sarah and our family currently lives in. Another option would be for us to buy another house in this area. I'm pretty sure we could buy a house in this area and rent our house in Holt and pay for the house in this area with the rent from the house in Holt. But that's brainstorming. Like, I'm just brainstorming there. That's what we do in Potterville. We work with a development company. In fact, Dale Hubner and his company, who manage the whole property for us, and they just send us a check. It's like free money that comes to us every month. Another option would be giving that family or that pastor a housing allowance. Yeah, Gretchen. And then we'll go back to Dave.
Are there any families there with children or teens?
There are a couple of families. There's at least one family I know of with young kids, and that's their administrative assistant, and she has 2 kids under 2. But with kids that age, the parents have been very cautious, so they haven't been participating too much lately. But when I chatted with her, she said, "Yeah, this is our church." In fact, they just had their youngest baptized a couple weeks ago. And I know there's a 3rd grade teacher there that I know that because she immediately bonded with my 3rd grader, and she has a teenager, but I don't know how active that is. But yeah, that's part of the reason that we're going to need some young families, is because there just aren't many. We're not going to reach new young families with the folks who are there in all likelihood. It's going to take 3 or 4 families deciding to do this together with us, so that they're and making a commitment to be there regularly, so that when other families with kids show up, they see kids. Yeah, there's kids there.
Right.
Oh, Dave, and then we'll go back to Sarah.
With the leadership team growing, are we going to be able to take an opportunity to make the team more diverse?
Yeah, Dave's asking, with the leadership team growing, are we going to have the chance to make the team more diverse? We will not bring their whole leadership team onto our vision team. We'll probably bring one person onto the vision team. But that is certainly a conversation that we're having at the vision team level, of how to make it more diverse. Oh, the new pastor here. Yes, absolutely. That's been, I should have said that as a criterion when David asked the question. And part of the reason I didn't is because the 2 people on the list are already not white dudes. So it just didn't, like, we've already had that conversation with the cabinet. And yes, absolute value. Okay, I think Sarah had her hand raised back there. Yes, that's where, when I think I went back to Jerry. Oh, so let me rephrase the question for those on Zoom. The question was whether, you trying to spread too thin. I think the spirit of the question was, are we spreading too thin, perhaps the families that we already have here and volunteers? And when Jerry first approached me about Asbury, I said yes, and then my second question was, oh, how are we going to do this? Here's one of the things that I've learned from doing church in a pub and church in a diner, is that starting new things attracts new people, and it attracts people on the fringes who are kind of entrepreneurial oriented. So I would hope that one of our kind of recruiting strategies for all of that is who's not already actively involved but is on the edges of Sycamore Creek that would be willing to be a participant. We get excited about something new. And I suspect there's also people like that on Asbury, and they just need like some catalyst that those people on the fringes feel excited to come more to the center of things. That's a hunch. That's not a, I know for sure, but yeah. Any other questions, either in the room or on Zoom, or I'm looking at Facebook too. I'm trying to cover a bunch of different chats areas, or maybe. Yeah, so Thomas is asking about remodeling it, and yes, I mean, that's another reason to close it for a period, just so we can remodel it without living in the mess of it. Mark had the joy of living in the mess of remodeling while doing it, and they didn't remodel the sanctuary, whereas we'll do that at we're probably going to call this the Eastwood Campus, because where's Eastwood Town Center? Oh yeah, it's right across the street from there. Where's Asbury United Methodist Church? I don't know. So what is Asbury? In fact, somebody keeps telling me, keeps emailing me, calling it Ashbury, which is just to show there's not, even that word Asbury is just not even that familiar to people, unless you're a geeky United Methodist that knows who Francis Asbury is. He's awesome, by the way. Definitely worth reading about him. Hold on, now I forgot what the question was. Oh, the remodeling. Yep. So Asbury has an endowment, and it's pretty significant in size. It's about $550,000, and we're working on figuring out basically how to free that up to liquidate it from. It was actually built originally for new ministries, and so, but we're going to need to tap into the principle of that to remodel. Although, Chuck, I had an idea just the other day. I was like, when you were talking at the last meeting with them, whether we shouldn't just take out a loan from the Michigan Area Loan Fund and then just pay it off with the interest from the endowment, and then the endowment is left at the end, and then you paid for it that way, because there's enough there that we might be able to just pay for the mortgage payment with the endowment's interest. But that big chunk of money gives a lot of freedom to close it down and remodel it and have a kind of grand opening as much more like who we are. Probably in a way that we weren't able to do in any of our other buildings. Remember when we worshiped in the basement that summer? Yeah, and the parsonage as well is going to need quite a bit of work. There have been pets that have been there, and I have lots of family members allergic to pets, and most of the appliances in the kitchen don't work very well, and some of those things. So there's work that's going to need to be done on the parsonage as well. How about other questions in the room or on chat? Mm-hmm.
So maybe just take a second to this, we know Sarah grew up in a household where her dad was a pastor, and she moved around. I mean, even Susan Kelly she understood what it meant to be a part of more or less a nomadic family to follow the vision of God.
Yeah.
How are the boys taking this? Are they excited? Are they grieving? How does that look like for you guys?
Well, you could ask them. I'm sure they would be happy to share with you. I would say that thinking about and talking to the boys about moving has probably been the hardest part of this for us personally, mostly because of their neighborhood friends. But the good news of that is that those friendships don't have to end, because most moves in United Methodism are not 20 minutes north in the same city.
Right.
So we've been able to maintain some of their friendships more broadly. They'll be closer to the Crackies, so there's the opportunity for connecting more with Nona, Jonah and Nora. I've never thought about how that,
good
like,
combo there,
Nona
yeah.
is like a mix of those two. But we usually this time of the year remind the two of them that we could move this year. We've never had until this year, that be a reality. We will likely put them in the local schools there, in the Lansing School District. So, but that's part of our commitment to the city and the call to the city. Sarah was looking up all of the stats on both of the high schools that we graduated from, and they're pretty much the same as the stats of what's right around that area. And the two of us turned out pretty well. All right, she turned out fabulous. She puts up with me. Yeah, Matthew. Absolutely. Yep. And what? Oh, Matthew asked if there are any women in the candidate pool. Yeah. Yes. I guess I should say there are non-men in the candidate pool. Marilyn asked, does Asbury already have AC? The answer is yes. So, yeah, that's our cross to bear every summer here at this campus. But we're still working on it. We're going to get there eventually. Yeah. Any other questions about Asbury? Yeah, you know, so this campus, we're in the least accessible campus about accessibility, the accessibility of the building. This campus is the least accessible because we're basically like a split level ranch, which is, you don't come in any door and anything happens at the door you come in. No, Asbury has 2 levels, both of them you can walk right into, and there's an elevator between them. An elevator in a really weird spot, but at least if you're in the basement. Yeah. I'm sure you're going to have more questions, and it wouldn't hurt, by the way, for any of the questions you've asked today to come up again at that joint town hall meeting. Partly because it'll be good for Asbury folks to hear you all asking some of those questions as well. Maybe especially the one about how we'll care for folks in that transition time. So don't be shy. Yeah, Gretchen.
Some of us know the pastor there, the current pastor there, like if he's getting reappointed.
Yes, John is being reappointed. He's being reappointed whether this adoption happens or not. Part of that is because they don't have the finances to keep on a full-time pastor independent of something extra like what we're doing happen. John has been in my coaching network, so he's already built some of our systems into Asbury. And when we had a meeting the other night and we asked, how are you doing? He said that if we weren't doing this adoption, he would feel like a bit of hopelessness about what was going to be the future of Asbury. But because of this adoption, he's feeling hope. He also has been super humble through the whole process, exceedingly humble, really not letting his ego get in the way. Yeah, yep. I mean, they do a lot of our series over there, the same things we do. All right, friends, I'm looking at the time. There's 15 minutes, and I do want to talk a little bit about COVID, but you'll see there we were gonna do some things and then have you pair up in questions and then do some more Q&A. But I'm gonna just move through this pretty quickly, and we'll see if we can't have a little bit of time for Q&A. We delve kind of deeply into the COVID and where everybody's at in the survey at the town hall meeting we had this past Wednesday. So, but the survey showed essentially that about a quarter of people are ready to be back without masks or mask optional. About half of people still want to see masks here, and about a quarter of the people are just not ready to begin with.
Yeah.
It feels like to me things are moving pretty quickly in our culture right now. Like I just got the email from Holt Public Schools that masks are optional as of today for Holt Public Schools, but then Lansing School District is doing masks required to the end of the year. So there's still some unevenness out there about how that all works or will work. But what we were going to do is kind of do a step process of opening back up when it comes to masks. And on March 6th, we were intending to open back up the cafe and start serving coffee in there. Thanks to Shelley and the rest of the green team, we have, oh, I don't have my mug up here anymore. We have real pottery mugs, and thanks to Thomas and the green team, we have a dishwasher now in the cafe.
Awesome.
And so you're going to come back on March 6th, and there's going to be real mugs and dishwashers. Yeah, they're absolutely gorgeous. You also have the chance to buy one if you want. There's like 3 or 4 different kinds, so collect all 4. Actually, I don't know. Don't buy too many. Buy some, but not too many, because it took like 6 months. They're all hand thrown, and then they're like baked somehow. It's all environmentally friendly. They're baked like in an oven that is from the sun, or like it's heated by the sun or something. So it's like a 6-month order process. So buy one. Collect some. But collect one.
Don't collect them all.
One thing as well, I'm going to need to talk with my Kids Creek team, which we're actually having a meeting tonight about what we're going to do with kids and thinking about that, because now we have split Lansing, mass optional. We've always been kind of drafting behind the big institutions, and we'll see. With Lansing, it's not optional. Holt, it is optional. We're going to talk about that tonight. One other thing that, kind of a big question that I've been asking through these 2 years is how much of what we have adapted is stuff that will outlast COVID, and how much is just a season of COVID. So, if you were familiar with how we did church in a pub, we kind of molded those together a little bit with tabled discussions or topic on tap, and now we've got these questions in here, and engagement online. The complexity of doing live music with video was all very challenging, and what capacity we had in our volunteers to try to do that. But you've noticed we've started adjusting things up here. We pulled this back. We pulled some instruments out and created some space up here. I'm trying to remember, is it March 20th, Jeremy? Jeremy's signed up for March 20th, and he's going to do a full band up here as much as we can.
Very cool.
So we're going to see how that goes, and hope that we can do it well and do it more. It's challenging to do that, like to make it sound good in the room, and it's on any given day, and then it's extra challenging to make it sound good in the room and online. So we're going to see how that goes. We're going to experiment with it, and you'll start to, I think, see some more of that up here with how that goes. I think one of the things, again, that we've adapted to, and we forgot to add this in our survey as far as is the pre-recorded messages. And there's a way that when you do a multi-site, that pre-recording your messages really helps multiply across multiple spaces. And so that may be something we continue to do. That's just a question mark. It's like a recognition that that's a thing we're still trying to discern. I would love to hear your feedback. It does feel like we have integrated kind of chat into worship in this setting pretty effectively, but that's something we didn't used to do on Sunday morning. And this morning we shifted even a little bit to give more time for that. So we're going to keep experimenting with that and see where it goes. Can you think of anything else that we've talked about?
No, I think you hit. I think those are the main points there.
Yeah. I wonder, again, we were going to have you in kind of pairs, but we don't have the time for that right now. But I wonder if there are questions that you have about COVID or about things we've adapted and what's happening. You can type those in the chat. By the way, we got another question on the chat. How much property comes with Asbury? The property is just that, as far as I know, is that parcel right on Lake Lansing Road, which is probably worth millions of dollars, I would guess, commercially, and then the parsonage in Groesbeck. Although this past week we were made aware that our Potterville campus owns 5 plots in a cemetery that we didn't know about. So, I mean, maybe there'll be some little gems like that.
I'd say put your names in. Maybe we'll do a raffle sometime.
If you're having a hard time affording a plot at a cemetery, we got 5 of them.
Oh!
I am dead serious.
Jeremy, you're killing me.
People are dying to get into those plots. All right. Do you have other questions about COVID? Yeah, Jason.
I wasn't clear on what is our guidance moving forward.
Right. Oh, thank you. Right now, I didn't say that. What's the guidance moving forward with masks? For at least a period of time, masks will be required in the sanctuary, and they'll be optional in the cafe. I think we were going to start March 6th with the mask optional, but I feel like with Holt making masks optional, if you would like to, after worship, go and hang out in the cafe at any point, it feels like to me. I'm going to make that executive decision. Is that okay, Eric?
That sounds good. That makes sense.
He's a drug dealer, so he knows about these things.
Oh, boy.
Eric's a pharmacist, so.
There you go.
Yeah, so we'll let, basically moving forward, the cafe will be mask optional. And so if you are still very cautious about coming, you can just come in the front door and you'll be in a mask required place, at least for, again, we'll just see how things progress. I was looking at the New York Times COVID map this morning, and finally Michigan is in like the colored light.
Oh, wow. All right.
But everybody else had a surge and a slowdown period, and we just had the surge for forever, it felt like. Lord have mercy. Yeah. Did that answer the question, Jason? And we'll evaluate as we move along. And of course, if you're in that quarter that you're not ready to come back, you have the online option. Any other questions about COVID? It does. One of the things that hit me about, Linda Vail lifted the mask mandate indoors for Ingham County. And one of the things she mentioned was that this is moving from a public health issue to a personal responsibility issue. So we're 2 years into this. You know the risks. You know what happens. You know what doesn't happen. I mean, I would put Sycamore Creek in the highly educated with real information part of the bell curve of our country. And so, if you're in a situation like me where you've been double vaccinated and boosted and you've had COVID, you probably very little risks for you. If you have an if you're immunocompromised, then the online option might continue to be the best option for you. All right. Yeah, we'll still have masks there for if you show up and wanted one but forgot it. At least for the foreseeable future. Yeah. And we'll communicate about Kids Creek, and then right now Kids kids mass are still going to be required until our Kids Creek team decides otherwise. All right, let me just give you a heads up of some things that are coming up. We talked about this, of course. Mardi Gras is our gas giveaway, and then we're having Ash Wednesday service here, both campuses online. We've got several town halls coming up with Asbury. March 6th is the Q&A. March 13th is the vote. You're going to start to receive some letters in the mail. We are replacing our capital campaigns with a generosity drive that's similar to a pledge campaign that churches do kind of regularly. This will be an annual opportunity for you to make a commitment to the ministry fund, the building fund, and Dr. Mir in Nicaragua. And that this generosity drive is going to help us with several different things. One, of course, is the better we are financially here, the better off we're going to be adopting Asbury. We really would like to give our staff raises that are sustainable. We've been giving them kind of year-end bonuses as there's been funds, and we'd like to keep up with inflation at least, if not do even better than that. And then our Potterville campus also is not quite to the place where it's financially sustainable. Pastor Mark, it's sustainable because Mark is getting his insurance through Jana, and they are buying their own house. So those are some pieces that we're hoping the generosity drive will help us meet those needs of ministry here in our campus. So watch for more information. On March 20th is going to be the pledge Sunday for that. So either turning in a pledge card or bringing it on that morning. There'll also be a digital pledge card option. Lots of fun stuff for Easter. Potterville on the Wednesday before Easter is doing a Living Last Supper.
Oh, nice.
And then Monday, Thursday, car wash. We're going to do a poetry, 7 last words poetry slam in my garage with free barbecue again in the driveway. We've got better plans for making that sound good than we did this last time we did it. It was fun, but I don't think anybody could hear it. It looks like at both campuses are going to do a community Easter egg hunt. We're going to be doing one in Scott Woods in the park there for the Scott Woods neighborhood, so details on that. And then Mark is exploring an event on Holy Saturday again with Sanctuary Spirits, where it's going to be free tacos at the taco truck and a spirited service. Easter, we have both of our sunrise services. One thing we've never thought about is how we're going to advertise is your pets are welcome at those. It is outdoors. It's out at Potterville. It's at Lake Alliance Park. Here it's at Mount Hope Cemetery. So bring your pets, your iguana, your pythons, whatever you would like to bring. And then we're going to have our normal service here. And following Easter, we're going to have barbecue on the patio. So I am tempting people with your stomach to get you back to church. I also, on the Monday before Easter, would like to do a call-a-thon, and I would love for all of you, we're going to organize this, but for all of you to show up with your cell phones, and we're going to call every single person in the church and invite them to Easter. I think it's time to work those rhythms of being back together, back in our lives. So we're going to make that a personal touch. June 26th is our baptism Sunday at Woldemar, and then on the first 4 weeks in July, we will be at Woldemar every week, and then the last week in July, we'll be at Asbury for the celebration of life. That's what's coming up.
Big stuff.
Yeah. All right, we had this is a town hall, so we always take some time at the end just to celebrate how this went and improve it for next time. So what's something that went well today? Feel free to type in the chat or the comments. What went well with our town hall today? Eric summarizing the letter was really helpful. You did do a good job at that.
I'll slip you the money afterwards, Gretchen, for saying that went well. I got you.
The bow tie helped, too. Yeah, really did. Anything else that went well today? Good discussion and questions.
I noticed
We weren't stumped by any questions, so it's been well thought out and brings a confidence to it. Marilyn types, we appreciated the Zoom option to attend. A lot of great Q&A about Asbury. Kristen writes, questions I never would have thought to ask. Yeah. You can keep celebrating what went well. Was there room for improvement? Anything that was missing or confusing? Nancy writes, I love the compassion that everyone has for the Asbury folks.
It would have been nice perhaps to have one of these screens with the Zoom to see the comments. I don't even know if that's possible, but I mean, Teresa had just mentioned a while ago, like she's logged in so she can see their comments.
Yeah, yeah.
She's present here, but
That's so the question was having Zoom available for people to see maybe on the screen who's there and so on. Yeah. Here's one thing we've learned is that whenever we do Zoom on a Sunday morning, bring somebody in through Zoom, it increases the complexity by about 500%. And it's always a Sunday where we are like 3 minutes before the service is going to start, still trying to make it work.
Oh, no.
So we're still, I was being kind to our volunteers to try not to do that, but you're right, and it would be awesome. Yeah. Anything else that need improvement, missing, or confusing?
If it started just slightly later, that would be nice. I had to take my kids somewhere so they would not disturb us.
Yeah.
So I missed the beginning of the meeting.
Gretchen is saying if it started just a little bit later, it would have been helpful. She had to take her kids somewhere and come back, so she missed the beginning of the meeting. And Jason suggested that it could have been started. This is like classic church feedback, right? Too hot, too cold, just right. Could have started earlier, or we could have offered childcare. Food was the option or question, yeah.
Food's always good.
I have like ambivalence about food right now with COVID, but maybe it's mass optional. We will start to do that more. So, still hard to hear the comments that are happening in person is one chat. Yeah, we could have, somebody was suggesting could have a microphone that people stand up to. Yeah, so again, the hybrid nature of this is just, it's like how much complexity do we want to add to our volunteers? But there's a big echo, somebody said online. Yeah. All right. You can keep evaluating something forever, but I'm deeply appreciative of all of you who participated here today. And it's got me praying on the agenda, but you want to pray?
Oh, man. Yeah, I'll pray.
One of my favorite things, I was actually celebrating this with Eric when we were in the celebration time, is Eric has a real pastoral heart that he's been to me in the midst of the uncertainty, all of this. And he also has been a real pastor, I think, to the Vision team and to Asbury. And it's been great to have his leadership in that respect.
I appreciate that, I really do.
Yeah.
And in that, I have a prayer that I've been reading daily that I've brought to the Vision team a couple times, and that's the prayer that I'll read today. I have it on my phone here. It's for deliverance from false desires and fears. Pray with me. Deliver me, O Jesus, from the desire to be esteemed, from the desire to be loved, from the desire to be honored, from the desire to be praised, from the desire to be preferred to others, from the desire to be consulted, from the desire to be approved, and from the desire to be popular. Deliver me, O Jesus, from the fear of being humiliated, from the fear of being despised, from the fear of being rebuked, from the fear of being slandered, from the fear of being forgotten, from the fear of being wronged, from the fear of being treated unfairly, and from the fear of being suspected. And dear Jesus, grant me the grace to desire that others might be more loved than I, that others might be more esteemed than I, that in the opinion of the world, others may increase and I decrease, that others may be chosen and I may be set aside, that others may be preferred to me in everything, and that others may become holier than I provided that I too become as holy as I can. Amen.
Amen. It's a powerful prayer.
It
Thank
is.
you for sharing it.
Yeah.
Hey, friends, thank you for coming out. Thank you, friends, on Zoom.